The blue sun of Kepler 442 cast strange shadows across the landing pad as Captain Elena Martinez stepped off her ship. The air smelled sweet, like flowers and fresh grass. Tall, graceful beings with fur like deer waited to greet her. They're large. Eyes held kindness that made Elena feel welcome. "Captain Martinez," said their leader in perfect English. His voice was soft like wind through leaves. "I am gentle Melody of Dawn. We are honored by your visit." Elena smiled and shook his delicate hand. The Aldari were nothing like humans. They stood 8 feet tall on thin legs, with long necks and faces that looked almost like Earth's deer. Their cities grew from living trees, and their ships were made from plants that somehow flew between stars. "The honor is mine," Elena said. "Your people's biotechnology has helped Earth colonies grow food in places we never thought possible." For 3 days, Elena traded with the Aldari. Her cargo hold filled with seeds that could grow in any soil and medicines that could heal diseases Earth doctors struggled with. In return, she gave them metal tools and computer parts they could not grow themselves. On the 3rd evening, Elena sat in her ship's common room drinking coffee when her communications officer, Pete Adams, ran in. His face was pale. "Captain, you need to hear this," Pete said. His hands shook as he played a recording. The voice that came through the speakers was gentle Melody of Dawn, but he sounded terrified. In the background, Elena could hear screaming and the sound of buildings falling down. "To any ship that can hear this message," the voice said, "we are the Aldari of Kepler 442b. We are under attack. A great swarm comes from the dark between stars. They have eaten 3 of our neighboring worlds. Everything living is gone. Only death remains." The message crackled with static. Elena heard explosions in the background. "We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons of war. We have no ships that can fight. The swarm will be here in 7 days. We ask for help. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. We will share everything we have. Our knowledge, our technology, our friendship. We only ask that someone help us live." The message ended. Elena stared at the speaker, her coffee growing cold in her hands. "Captain," Pete said quietly, "I've been monitoring their signals all evening. The situation is getting worse. They're talking about evacuation, but they don't have enough ships." Elena stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the Aldari city glowing softly in the evening light. Children played in the parks, while adults tended to gardens that seemed to sing in the wind. These people had never hurt anyone. They grew food and healed the sick. The idea of fighting was foreign to them. "Get me Admiral Jake Thompson on Earth," Elena said. "Emergency priority." It took 20 minutes to establish a secure connection. Across the light years, Admiral Thompson's weathered face appeared on the screen. He was a big man with gray hair and scars from the Centauri Wars. His eyes were hard, like someone who had seen too much death. "Elena," he said, "what's the situation?" Elena played the Aldari message. As Thompson listened, his expression grew darker. When it finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "How long do we have?" he asked. 6 days, maybe less," Elena replied. "Admiral, these people saved thousands of colonists with their medical technology. They've never asked for anything in return. They just want to live." Thompson nodded slowly. "The Aldari are good people. But this swarm you mentioned, we have reports about them. They've hit 17 systems in the past 10 years. Nothing survives. No negotiations, no mercy. Just hunger. What can we do?" Elena asked. Thompson was quiet again. Elena could see him, thinking, weighing options in his mind. Finally, he spoke. "There's a ship," he said. "The Apex Predator. It's our newest warship. Still experimental. The crew has been training for 2 years, but they've never seen real combat. Can it fight this swarm? Elena, you have to understand something. This ship wasn't built for rescue missions. It wasn't built to evacuate civilians or defend colonies. It was built to kill things that threaten humanity. It's the most dangerous weapon we've ever created. Elena thought about gentle melody of dawn in his kind eyes. She thought about the children playing in the parks and the adults who spent their lives growing food and healing others. Send it, she said. Townsend nodded. Commander Lisa Hayes will take command. She's our best. If anyone can save the elderly, it's her. What should I tell them? Tell them help is coming. But don't tell them what kind of help. They wouldn't understand. The connection ended. Elena sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about what was coming. The Alderai had asked for help. They probably expected evacuation ships or defensive weapons. They had no idea that humanity's idea of help was very different. Outside her window, the peaceful city glowed in the alien starlight. In 6 days, everything might be different. The question was whether there would be anything left to save. Elena stood up and walked to her communications console. She opened a channel to gentle melody of dawn. This is Captain Martinez, she said. I have spoken with my people. Help is coming. Hold on for 6 more days. We will not abandon you. She ended the transmission and stared out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, the most dangerous ship humanity had ever built was preparing to jump into hyperspace. The Alderai had asked for help, but what was coming had been built for something else entirely, something much darker. The apex predator hung in the darkness of space like a sleeping monster. 3 miles long and black as the void between stars, it looked nothing like the peaceful trade ships that carried goods between human colonies. This ship had been built for one purpose: to kill things that threatened humanity. Commander Lisa Hayes walked through the ship's corridors, her boots echoing on metal floors. She was 35 years old, with short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her crew called her Iron Lisa because she never showed fear, even when death was close. Commander, called Ryan Clark from behind her. He was her tactical officer, a thin man with quick hands and a mind that saw battle patterns like others saw art. The crew is ready for briefing. Lisa nodded and followed him to the main briefing room. 50 officers sat waiting for her. These were the best soldiers humanity had produced. Each had trained for years to serve on this ship. Each had proven they could make hard choices when lives were at stake. Listen carefully, Lisa said as she stood before the massive screen. In 4 days, we will arrive at Kepler 442b, the Alderai colony. There is about to be attacked by something called the Devourers. She pressed a button, and images filled the screen. Destroyed planets, their surfaces stripped bare. Cities reduced to ash. Empty space where star systems used to exist. Devourers are a swarm species, Lisa continued. They travel in bioships that look like giant insects. Each ship is alive, grown rather than built. The swarm moves as one mind, consuming everything in their path. Amy Rodriguez, the weapons specialist, raised her hand. She was a small woman from Texas with steady hands and a talent for making things explode. Commander, what do we know about their defenses? Their ships are made of something like chitin and bone, Lisa replied. They can heal damage quickly, but they're vulnerable to high-energy weapons and extreme heat. They rely on numbers rather than individual ship strength. Kevin Sullivan, the chief engineer, spoke up. He was a big man from Boston who could fix anything and make it work better than before. How many ships are we talking about? Intelligence. Reports suggest thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. The apex predator was the most powerful ship humanity had ever built, but it was still just one ship. The Alderai are peaceful people, Lisa said. They have never fought a war. Their ships are made for exploration and trade, not combat. They asked for our help because they have no other choice. Lieutenant Sam Davis, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from his tablet. He was young and smart, fresh out of the academy with degrees in alien biology and combat medicine. Commander, what makes us think we can succeed where 17 other civilizations failed? Lisa smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator that had caught scent of prey. Because we're human, she said simply. The Althari are herbivores. They evolved from creatures that ate plants and ran from danger. The other species that fell to the devourers were traders, explorers, and builders. None of them were predators. She pressed another button, and images of Earth appeared on the screen. Battlefields from human history, soldiers in trenches, tanks rolling across deserts, ships burning in space battles. We evolved differently, Lisa continued. Humans are persistence hunters. We chase our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. We don't give up. We don't show mercy. When something threatens what we protect, we don't just defend. We destroy. Kate Wilson, the secondary engineer, nodded slowly. She had fought in the Titan Rebellion and knew what humans could do when they were angry. The Devourers have never faced anything like us. Exactly, Lisa said. They've spent thousands of years consuming peaceful species. They've developed tactics for overwhelming civilizations that try to defend themselves. But they've never fought something that hunts back. Tony Bell, the navigation officer, studied the star charts. He was quiet and careful, the kind of man who could plot a course through an asteroid field blindfolded. Commander, the jump to Kepler will take us through Devourer territory. We might face scouts. Good, Lisa replied. Let them see us coming. Let them report back to the swarm. Fear is a weapon too. She turned to address the entire crew. The apex predator carries enough firepower to crack a planet. Our antimatter torpedoes can vaporize mountains. Our plasma cannons can melt through any armor. Our kinetic weapons hit with the force of asteroids. Beth Parker, the communications specialist, raised her hand. She was young but experienced, having served on frontier patrol ships where first contact with hostile aliens was common. What about the Althari? How do we protect civilians during the battle? The Althari will stay in their underground shelters, Lisa said. Our job is to make sure the swarm never reaches the planet's surface. We fight them in space. Ryan Clark brought up tactical displays showing battle formations. Commander, the swarm uses overwhelming numbers. Traditional naval tactics won't work. Then we don't use traditional tactics, Lisa replied. We use human tactics, hit and run, guerrilla warfare. We make them chase us through space while we pick them apart piece by piece. Greg Moore, the combat AI specialist, looked up from his computer. He was pale and thin, more comfortable with machines than people, but his artificial intelligence programs could think faster than any human mind. I've been running simulations. The AI systems are ready for adaptive combat. They'll learn the enemy patterns in real time. Excellent, Lisa said. Remember, everyone, the Devourers think like a hive mind. They're used to overwhelming their enemies with superior numbers. They're not used to fighting something that thinks like a predator. Julie Adams, the sensor operator, checked her equipment. She was quiet and focused, able to track a single ship in a fleet of thousands. All sensors are calibrated for bioship detection. Commander. Lisa looked around the room at her crew. These were warriors, not because they enjoyed killing, but because they understood that sometimes killing was the only way to protect what mattered. The Althari saved thousands of human colonists with their medical technology, she said. They've never asked for payment. They've never demanded tribute. They just wanted to help. Now they need our help. She paused and met each person's eyes. "We're going to give it to them, but we're going to do it the human way." The Devourers wanted to add another peaceful species to their meal. Instead, they're going to learn what happens when they threaten something humanity values. The crew stood as one. They were ready for war, but the apex predator turned toward the Kepler system and engaged its hyperdrive. Behind it, space twisted and folded as the ship disappeared into the darkness between stars. 4 days later, the Devourers would learn that not all species were prey. The apex predator dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. What Commander Lisa Hayes saw through the main viewer made her stomach turn cold. The outer planets were gone. Not destroyed, but consumed. Where gas giants once spun. In their ancient orbits, only empty space remained. Asteroid belts that had circled the system for billions of years were nothing but scattered dust. "My God," whispered Tony Bell from the navigation station. His hands shook as he checked the sensor readings. They ate everything. The swarm stretched across space like a living nightmare. Thousands of bioships moved in perfect formation, each one the size of a city block. They looked like giant insects made of bone and chitin, their surfaces pulsing with veins that glowed sickly green. Smaller ships darted between the larger ones like worker ants serving their queen. "How many?" Lisa asked. Julie Adams checked her. "Sensors." Her voice was steady, but Lisa could see the fear in her eyes. 15,000 ships, Commander. Maybe more. The smaller ones are hard to count. Ryan Clark pulled up tactical displays on his screen. Red dots filled the hologram, showing enemy positions. They're moving toward the planet in 3 massive waves. The first wave will reach Kepler 442b in 18 hours. Lisa activated the communications array. "Captain Martinez, this is Commander Hayes aboard the Apex Predator. Do you copy?" Static filled the speakers before Elena's voice came through. She sounded tired and scared. "Commander, thank God you're here. The situation is bad. The Aldari are trying to evacuate their orbital stations, but they don't have enough ships." "What's the civilian status?" "Most of the population is already in underground shelters. They've been preparing for days. But Commander, you need to see what we're dealing with." Elena transmitted live video from the planet's surface. Lisa watched on her screen as graceful Aldari ships tried to flee the approaching swarm. But the bioships were faster. They caught the fleeing vessels. Spiders catching flies. What happened next made several crew members look away. The bioships didn't just destroy the Aldari vessels. They absorbed them. The organic hulls opened like mouths and swallowed the ship's whole. Lisa could hear screaming through the communication channel before the transmission cut to static. "They're not just killing them," Sam Davis said quietly. "They're eating them alive." Beth Parker tried to establish communication with the swarm. She sent messages in 12 different languages, offering to negotiate. The only response was a sound like hungry static, as if the bioships were drooling. "Commander," said Greg Moore from his eye console, "the combat computer has analyzed their movement patterns. They don't fight like individual ships. The entire swarm moves like a single organism." Lisa studied the tactical display. The bioships flowed through space like water, changing formation, without any visible communication. When one ship was damaged, others moved to protect it immediately. When they found prey, they surrounded it from all directions at once. It's a hive mind, she realized. They share thoughts across the entire swarm. Kevin Sullivan called from engineering. "Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the larger bioships. They're generating some kind of biological weapons. Acid clouds, I think." As if responding to his words, the swarm launched its attack on the remaining Aldari orbital stations. Green clouds spread through space, dissolving metal and plastic like they were made of sugar. Aldery ships that flew into the clouds simply melted away. "Captain Martinez," Lisa said into the communicator, "get to the planet's surface immediately. It's not safe in orbit." "Already on my way down, Commander. The Aldery leader wants to speak with you." A new voice came through the speakers. It was Gentle Melody of Dawn, but he sounded broken and afraid. "Commander Hayes, please, we need evacuation ships. Our people are dying." Lisa closed her eyes. For a moment, she could hear the hope in his voice. He still believed this was a rescue mission. "Gentle Melody of Dawn," she said carefully, "my ship is not designed for evacuation. We came here to fight." Silence stretched across the communication channel. Finally, the Aldery leader spoke again. "Fight? But Commander, there are so many of them. Surely you cannot mean to attack such a vast swarm." "That's exactly what I mean. But why? Your ship could carry thousands of our people to safety. Why stay and fight when you could save lives instead?" Lisa looked around her bridge at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting to see how she would explain human nature to a species that had never known war. "Because running won't solve the problem," she said. "The swarm will follow any ships that escape. They'll track you to whatever planet you try to hide on. And then they'll eat that world too. But if you fight them, you will die," Gentle Melody of Dawn said. "Your sacrifice will not save us. There are too many." "You're wrong," Lisa replied. "You see 15,000 ships and think we're outnumbered. But you don't understand what you're looking at. Those aren't 15,000 individual enemies. That's one enemy with 15,000 parts. Cut off the head, and the body dies." Amy Rodriguez looked up from her weapons console. "Commander, I've identified what looks like command ships. Larger biovessels in the center of each formation. They're directing the smaller ones." "There's our target," Lisa said. She turned back to the communicator. "Gentle Melody of Dawn, get your people as deep underground as possible. What's about to happen up here isn't going to be pretty." "Commander," the Aldery leader said quietly, "my people have studied your species. We know. Humans can be violent. But this swarm has destroyed 17 civilizations. What makes you think you can succeed where so many others failed?" Lisa smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Because those other civilizations were like you. They built ships for exploration and trade. They developed technology to heal and create. When danger came, they tried to defend themselves." "And humans are different?" "Yes," Lisa said simply. "Humans don't just defend. We hunt. And we're very, very good at it." She cut the communication and turned to her crew. "All hands, battle stations, weapons to full power, sensors to maximum range. It's time to show this swarm what happens when they threaten something humanity protects." Red lights bathed the bridge as the ship went to full combat alert. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of an entire species. Outside the viewports, the swarm continued its approach to the planet. They moved with the confidence of predators that had never faced real opposition. They had consumed 17 civilizations without ever encountering serious resistance, but they had never fought humans before. Lisa Hayes stood on her bridge and watched the enemy approach. In 6 hours, they would learn that not all species were prey. Some were predators themselves. The hunt was about to begin. The first antimatter torpedo left the apex predator like a falling star. It crossed the dark space between the human ship and the swarm in 3 seconds. When it hit the lid bioship, a miniature sun bloomed in the darkness. The explosion vaporized the target instantly. 5 other bioships caught in the blast were torn apart, their organic hulls boiling away into plasma. The shockwave sent dozens more tumbling through space, their formation broken. "Direct hit," Amy Rodriguez called from her weapons station. Her fingers danced over the controls, loading the next torpedo. Target destroyed. But the swarm barely paused. The damaged bioships healed themselves within minutes, their living hulls growing new sections to replace what had been lost. The formation closed ranks and continued toward the planet. They adapt fast, Ryan Clark observed. He watched the tactical display as the bioships changed their approach pattern. They're spreading out to minimize damage from area weapons. Lisa nodded. She had expected this. The swarm had survived by learning from each encounter. But so did humans. Change tactics, she ordered. Plasma cannons, focused fire. Target the largest ships first. The apex predator's main guns opened fire. Beams of superheated plasma lanced through space, each one hot enough to melt steel in microseconds. The bioships tried to dodge, but the human targeting systems tracked them perfectly. Where the plasma touched the bioships, their hulls burst into flame. The living tissue couldn't heal fast enough to survive the extreme heat. One by one, the larger vessels began to fall apart. The swarm responded by launching thousands of smaller ships at the apex predator. They came like a cloud of angry wasps, each one armed with biological weapons that could eat through metal. Incoming attack craft, Julie Adams announced. Estimate 4,000 small vessels approaching fast. Point defense systems online. Lisa commanded. A human ship bristled with weapons. Automated cannons tracked the incoming bioships and filled space with bullets made of depleted uranium. Each bullet hit with the force of a small bomb. The attacking ships died by the hundreds. But more kept coming. Hull breach on Deck 7, Kevin Sullivan reported from engineering. Some of them got through. They're spraying acid into the corridors. Seal that section, Lisa ordered. Vent it to space if you have to. The battle became a deadly dance. The apex predator moved through space like a shark among schools of fish. It struck hard and fast, then changed position before the swarm could surround it. Lisa used the ship's speed and firepower to stay ahead of the enemy's overwhelming numbers. But the bioships were learning. Each attack wave came with new tactics. They began using suicide runs, ramming bioships into the human vessel at full speed. They launched clouds of acid that hung in space like deadly fog. They even tried to board the ship with smaller creatures that could survive in vacuum. They're getting smarter, Greg Moore said. His AI systems worked constantly to predict the swarm's next move. The hive mind is adapting to our tactics faster than expected. Sam Davis studied the sensor readings from his biology station. Commander, I think I know why. Look at this. He put his findings on the main screen. Chemical traces from destroyed bioships showed complex organic computers inside each vessel. They're not just sharing thoughts. They're sharing memories. Every time we destroy one ship, the others learn from how it died. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The swarm wasn't just numerous. It was getting better at fighting humans with every minute that passed. Time to try something they haven't seen before, she decided. Tony, plot a course directly into the heart of their formation. Tony Bell's hands froze over his controls. Commander, that's suicide. They'll surround us. Not if we're moving fast enough. Amy, prepare kinetic penetrators. Full spread. Amy Rodriguez loaded the ship's most devastating weapons. Kinetic penetrators were simple but deadly. Solid chunks of metal accelerated to near light speed. They hit with more force than nuclear bombs. The apex predator dove into the swarm like a spear thrust into water. Bioships tried to block its path, but the human ships smashed through them without slowing. The kinetic weapons fired continuously, punching holes through multiple targets with each shot. For a few minutes, the tactic worked perfectly. The swarm couldn't adapt to something moving too fast to catch. Bioships exploded around the human vessel like firecrackers. But then the hive mind found a solution. The larger bioships began creating a net of acid clouds throughout their formation. No matter which direction the apex predator moved, it would have to fly through the deadly chemicals. "We can't keep this up," Kate Wilson called from her engineering station. "The hull is taking too much damage. One more pass through that acid, and we'll lose life support." Lisa studied the tactical display. The swarm had learned to counter every human tactic. Traditional weapons weren't enough. They needed something the bioships had never seen before. "Sam," she said to the xenobiologist, "you've been studying their biology. Do they have any weaknesses we haven't exploited?" Sam looked at his data. "Commander, their healing ability requires massive amounts of energy. If we could overload their systems somehow ... What kind of overload? Radiation, maybe? Their cellular structure shows sensitivity to certain frequencies. If we could hit them with the right kind of energy burst." Lisa turned to Greg Moore. "Can the AI systems calculate the exact frequency we need?" Greg's fingers flew over his keyboard. "Give me 30 seconds. While he worked, the swarm pressed closer. More bioships had joined the battle, making the enemy force even larger than before. The apex predator was badly damaged, its hull scarred by acid and impact craters. "Got it," Greg announced. "Frequency 2.7 gigahertz. But Commander, we don't have weapons that can generate that kind of radiation burst." Lisa smiled grimly. "Yes, we do. Kevin, can you overload the main reactor without destroying the ship?" Kevin Sullivan understood immediately. "I can create a controlled fusion burst. It'll flood local space with radiation at exactly the frequency we need." "Do it, Commander," Ryan Clark said urgently. "If we're wrong about this, we'll irradiate ourselves too." "Then we better not be wrong." The apex predator stopped moving and began charging its reactor beyond safe limits. Around them, thousands of bioships closed in for the kill. The hive mind sensed victory and pressed forward eagerly. "Reactor at 150% capacity," Kevin reported. 200%. 250%. "Now," Lisa commanded, the human ship became a star for 3 seconds. Radiation poured out in all directions, invisible but deadly. The bioships caught in the burst simply stopped functioning. Their organic computers crashed. Their healing systems failed. Their living hulls began to rot in space in minutes. Half the swarm was dead or dying. The surviving bioships pulled back in confusion. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered something that could hurt them in ways they didn't understand. But Lisa knew the victory was temporary. The hive mind would adapt to this weapon too, given time. She needed to end this before they learned how to protect themselves. "All sensors," she ordered. "Find me the Queen ship. This ends now." The Queen ship hid in the center of the swarm, like a spider in its web. It was 10 times larger than any other bioship, its hull pulsing with veins that carried thoughts to every vessel in the fleet. Julie Adams found it by tracking the communication. Signals that flowed between the bioships, like a nervous system. "There," she said, pointing to her sensor display. 200 kilometers behind the main formation. "It's coordinating everything." Lisa studied the massive creature on her screen. The Queen ship looked like a living cathedral made of bone and flesh. Smaller bioships clung to its hull like parasites, feeding on the nutrients that flowed through its veins. "That's the brain," she realized. "Kill it, and the whole swarm loses coordination." But getting to the Queen would be impossible. The surviving bioships had formed a protective shell around their leader. Thousands of vessels blocked every approach route, their weapons trained on the damaged human ship. "Commander," Ryan Clark said quietly, "even if we could reach it, we don't have enough firepower left to punch through something that big." Lisa looked around her bridge. Half the control stations were dark from battle damage. Smoke hung in the air from burned circuits. Her crew was exhausted from hours of combat. The apex predator had done the impossible. It had heard a swarm that had destroyed 17 civilizations. But it wasn't enough, unless ... Kevin, she said to her chief engineer. How much antimatter do we have left? Kevin checked his displays. 4 torpedoes, Commander. Maybe enough for one more reactor overload. What? If we used all of it at once? The engineering officer's face went pale. Commander, that would destroy the ship, and everything within 100 kilometers. Including the Queen ship? Yes, but... No buts. Lisa turned to her communications officer. Beth, open a channel to Captain Martinez on the planet. Elena's voice came through filled with static. Commander, the Aldari are tracking your battle from their shelters. They can't believe what you've accomplished up here. Elena, I need you to evacuate my crew. Emergency transport for 50 people. Silence stretched across the channel. Finally, Elena spoke again. Lisa, what are you planning? The only thing. That will work. I'm going to ram this ship into the Queen and detonate our entire antimatter supply on impact. That's suicide. No, Lisa said calmly. That's victory. She turned to address her crew. All hands, prepare for evacuation. Captain Martinez will pick you up in escape pods. Ryan Clark stood up from his station. Commander, we're not leaving you behind. That's an order, Ryan. With respect, Mom, you can't pilot this ship alone. The Queen is too well defended. You'll never get close enough. Amy Rodriguez spoke up from her weapons console. The commander's right about the ramming attack, but she's wrong about doing it alone. This is a team mission. One by one, the crew members made their choice. They could evacuate to safety and then watch the swarm recover, or they could stay and finish what they started. None of them left their stations. Lisa felt pride swell in her chest. This was what made humans different from every other species the swarm had faced. When cornered, humans didn't surrender. They fought harder. Very well, she said. Then we do this together. Tony, plot a course directly to the Queen ship. Maximum acceleration. The apex predator turned toward the heart of the swarm and began to accelerate. The bioships saw them coming and moved to intercept. Thousands of organic vessels converged on the human ship from all directions. Weapons free, Lisa commanded. Clear us a path. The ship's remaining guns fired continuously. Plasma beams cut through bioship formations, while kinetic weapons punched holes in their defensive lines. But for every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Hull breaches on multiple decks, Kate Wilson reported. We're losing atmosphere. Seal all sections except the bridge, Lisa ordered. Emergency life support only. Acid clouds filled space around them. The apex predator's hull began to smoke and bubble where the chemicals touched it. Warning alarms screamed from every console. 50 kilometers to target, Tony Bell announced. 40, 30. Bioships rammed into the human vessel, trying to stop its advance. Their living hulls wrapped around the apex predator like tentacles, squeezing and tearing at the metal hull. They're trying to hold us back, Greg Moore said. The hive mind knows what we're planning. 20 kilometers, Tony called out. 15. The Queen ship loomed ahead of them, growing larger on the view screen. Lisa could see weapons ports opening along its hull, preparing to fire. Kevin, start the antimatter cascade, she ordered. Set it for manual detonation. Commander, Kevin said, his hand hovering over the controls. Once I start this, we have 60 seconds before it goes critical. Do it. Deep in the ship's reactor core, antimatter began to mix with matter in carefully controlled amounts. The reaction would build for 1 minute, then release enough energy to vaporize everything within. 100 kilometers. 50 seconds. Kevin announced. Bioships swarmed over the apex predator like ants on a piece of food. They tore at the hull with claws and acid, desperate to stop the human ship's advance. 10 kilometers to target, Tony said. We're not going to make it. Too much damage. Lisa looked at the tactical display. The ship was barely holding together. Hull breaches covered every section. Life support was failing. But they were close enough. 30 seconds to detonation, Kevin called out. Launch all escape pods, Lisa ordered. Emergency evacuation. Commander, the pods won't clear the blast. Radius and time, Beth protested. They don't need to. They just need to get clear of the Queen ship. The crew looked at her with understanding. Lisa wasn't planning to escape the explosion. She was planning to ride it into the heart of the enemy. 20 seconds. It's been an honor serving with you all, Lisa said simply. Likewise, Commander. Ryan replied. The rest of the crew nodded their agreement. 5 kilometers to target, Tony announced. 4, 3. 10 seconds to detonation. The Queen ship filled the view screen. Lisa could see its surface in perfect detail now. Breathing tubes that pulsed with alien life. Weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. Communication arrays that connected it to every bioship in the swarm. 2 kilometers. 1. 5 seconds. The apex predator smashed into the Queen ship's hull at full speed. The impact drove the human vessel deep into the alien creature's body, past layers of armor, and into the vital organs that controlled the hive mind. 0. Lisa Hayes had one last thought before the antimatter explosion consumed everything. The Aldery had asked for help. They had received exactly what they needed. Not rescue. Extermination. The blast turned 100 kilometers of space into a new star. When the light faded, nothing remained of the Queen ship except scattered atoms. The bioships that had protected it were simply gone. Across the system, the rest of the swarm suddenly stopped moving. Without the Queen's coordinating influence, the hive mind collapsed. Individual bioships turned on each other in confusion. Some tried to flee. Others attacked randomly. Within hours, they had destroyed themselves. Captain Elena Martinez found the escape pods floating in space 12 hours. Later, 50 human officers, badly injured but alive. They had survived because their commander chose to die rather than let evil triumph. On the planet's surface, gentle Melody of Dawn emerged from his shelter to see stars shining where the swarm had been. He understood now what humans truly were. Not just another spacefaring species, but something evolution had designed to hunt the hunters. The Aldery would never forget what happened in their system. They would tell their children about the day humans came to help. How Earth sent not evacuation ships or defensive weapons, but something much more dangerous. They had asked for help. What landed was built for extermination, and sometimes that was exactly what the universe needed.